Now then, a new study which involved participants eating pizza well after feeling full in order to test what immediate effects this had on the body finds that our metabolism is surprisingly good at coping with overindulgence. And that doesn't mean that we can actually rush out and eat like that all the time. But researchers with the Centre for Nutrition, Exercise and Metabolism at the University of Bath compared the effects of normal eating, so for example, eat until you're completely full, with maximal eating. For example, eat until you cannot manage another bite. Professor James Betts from the University of Bath oversaw the work.
We were interested in this study to understand what happens when human beings eat as much as they can in one go, which on the one hand is a kind of fun study, which I imagine will capture people's imagination when they think of times they've done that. But at the same time, from a kind of scientific perspective, we can really learn a lot about the body by trying to understand what happens when you test its limits.
It sounds even more fun, the fact that you were eating pizza, or the participants were eating pizza. I presume, though, it could have been any food that you used.
We spent quite a lot of time trying to work out which food to use. We wanted something that was the same in each bite, because if we gave people a buffet meal, then some people might start selecting certain parts of that meal and certain types of food. So yeah, we wanted something that was where every bite was just adding in the same nutrients and the same energy. And we also wanted something where you could quite easily divide up the portion control. So we cut the slices a bit smaller, actually, than you might usually have yourself, so that participants could more accurately gauge when they wanted to have another bite, or even if they felt obliged to finish a slice here and there, it was going to be a very small slice.
What were you hoping to find out? What did you find out?
The thing we were really interested to see here was whether some of the responses that we know if you eat a small meal or a moderate-sized meal or a large meal, and a lot of things in the body then are proportionate to that. So the amount that your blood sugars change, or the amount that your blood fats change, and some other hormones that we looked at that control your body, we know that those will increase in proportion to how much you eat. So we were interested then in one way to see whether if people push beyond the point where they would normally eat, does that keep going up in a dose-response way, so that you'd suddenly see people with very unhealthy levels of sugars and fats in the blood, which might predispose to a risk for them. And the surprising finding that we report here then, because remarkably nobody had really looked at eating so much past the normal full level in a meal. Well, one surprising finding was that people ate almost 100% more food. So everybody out there can know then that when you stop eating and say, I'm full, I've satiated my hunger, you're actually still half empty, and you could eat almost exactly the same amount of food again. But then if you do that on an occasion, you don't see that your blood fats and your blood sugars go much higher than they would have done if you'd stopped at your normal amount. So we need to be clear that we're not encouraging people to do that, and overeating day after day is of course not good for us. But if at certain kind of festival occasions, or for any other reason you overeat dramatically, that doesn't have a huge effect on your health.
I'm interested as to how this is broken down with regard to individuals, because everybody has a different metabolism. Some people can eat a lot and not put on any weight, and also the kind of things that you're eating. Presumably, if you're testing people with pizza, there's going to be carbohydrates in there, quite a lot of fat, which again people's body deals with differently. Does that make much of a difference? Did you find?
Yeah, so on the first part, we did see very big differences between individuals, and we were keen in our research paper to report those differences, because some people ate a vast amount of food and others not so much more when they were asked to eat to maximal eating. But the rate of eating was so different as well, and we might all expect that, of course. We would all know family members and friends who sometimes just eat very slowly but for a very long time, and other individuals who just eat steadily and just keep going very quickly. So we did see big individual differences in how much people ate. And in terms of the food, we're really interested to look at whether different foods would have had different effects. Of course, another one of the reasons we chose pizza is that it's a very rich food, so that we knew we would see effects on the amount of carbohydrate and fat being ingested. But one of the interesting things we saw was that the participants actually, not only did they feel full, of course, after eating the pizza, but even their ratings of appetite in relation to sweet foods didn't bounce back after 4 hours, which is kind of unusual, because most of the science that's out there shows us that it's true, the knowledge that people have in society, that you always have your dessert stomach and you could normally fit some ice cream in. But participants in this study, even when they'd eaten pizza, they didn't even want anything sweet later on either.
Now, we should say that most of the study was done with healthy young men between 22 and 37. Am I right with that?
That's right. So we will we're looking to do the study again in overweight and obese individuals, because it's right that we test the study in a kind of healthy, lean individual to start with, and understand the response to that meal in those individuals. At the same time, we were recruiting for females in this study, and we kind of found it amusing that so many males were very keen to jump straight into a study that involved eating until you couldn't have another bite, whereas women were perhaps more sensible and said that didn't seem like a good idea.
I'm interested, though, if anything was taken into consideration with regard to the person's lifestyle anyway, because I would imagine that if you are exercising and you are generally healthy and fit, your body metabolism would be slightly different than if you were just eating pizza till you were full every night. Did you take that into account?
Certainly, knowing the individuals who took part in this study, the reason that they are lean and healthy is that they all have very active lifestyles, which, yes, means that their tissues that would be consuming the pizza at a cellular level, like their muscles, are very well primed to manage that, which is why we'd like to look at the study with individuals who might have less tolerance for, say, an increase in blood sugar. But yeah, these were healthy individuals, and because they're active, they're used to eating a lot of food. And I have to say that pizza wasn't an unusual food for them. They were all quite used to having these pizzas, and a couple of them joked with me after the study that after doing it, they couldn't order takeaway pizzas for at least a week afterwards. So they did get back into the pizza quite soon after that.
Only a week, though. That's fascinating, that survey. Professor James Betts from the James Betts from